Look at her hand. She's a shaking, pathetic drunk and a disgrace to this family. My sister-in-law Karen screamed those exact words across my dad's 70th birthday party. 50 wealthy country club guests completely froze. Beside her stood a stranger in a cheap suit, a rehab doctor she had literally brought here to publicly ambush me. I looked at my own brother Daniel. He just stared down at his shoes. He stayed dead silent, abandoning his own flesh and blood to the wolves just to please his wife. That betrayal hurt worse than any bullet I ever took. My right hand was shaking violently. The ice in my water glass rattled against the crystal. But I am a Navy commander. I don't retreat when ambushed. I slammed the glass down on the table, grabbed the right sleeve of my silk dress, and ripped it all the way up to my shoulder. The entire room gasped. I exposed the massive jagged crater where a 7.62 millimeter sniper round had completely pulverized my bicep and radial nerve. This isn't alcohol. I boomed, my voice slicing through the dead silence. This is permanent nerve damage. Before Karen could open her mouth to double down, a massive man in a Navy dress uniform pushed his way through the crowd. He stared at my mangled arm, the color completely draining from his face. Right there on the hardwood floor, Commander Vance dropped heavily to his knees. Tears spilled down his weathered face. That scar. That trajectory. He choked out, his voice breaking in front of the entire elite crowd. If you hadn't stepped in front of that bullet, my men would have come home in body bags. But before I tell you exactly how I incinerated my sister-in-law's fake upper-class life with a single sentence, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss the absolute public destruction of a parasite who tried to bury a combat veteran. The jazz band stopped playing. The sudden silence in the country club ballroom was heavy, suffocating. You could smell the roasted tenderloin and the overpriced Chanel perfume baking under the heat of the crystal chandeliers. 50 pairs of judgmental country club eyes burned into my skin. Karen stood in the center of the polished dance floor. Her chest was puffed out. She wore a smug, self-righteous grin. Her manicured fingers dug into the arm of the sleazy-looking man wearing a cheap gray suit. "This is Dr. Evans," she announced, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. "He is an addiction specialist. We have a bed waiting for you at his facility tonight, Bella. Do the right thing. Stop humiliating your parents." I looked past her. I looked at my dad. The man who taught me how to throw a baseball was currently shrinking into his high-backed leather chair, staring blankly at his untouched steak. I shifted my gaze to my younger brother, Daniel. He refused to look up. He just stared intensely at the scuff marks on his expensive dress shoes. He stayed dead silent. He threw his own sister to the wolves just to keep the peace in his fake, miserable marriage. The betrayal registered cold. Colder than the ice water currently spilling over my knuckles. My right hand was experiencing a severe neurological tremor. The ice cubes clinked and rattled violently against the heavy crystal glass. Every eye in the room tracked the shaking. They did not see an officer, they saw a liability, a broken woman ruining their caviar service. I did not cry. Crying was for victims. I am an explosive ordnance disposal officer. I dismantle threats for a living. I set the glass down. The heavy thud echoed. I reached across my body with my functioning left hand. I gripped the delicate navy blue silk at the hem of my right sleeve. I did not hesitate. I pulled hard. The fabric tore with a loud, violent rip. I shredded the sleeve all the way up to my collarbone. The collective gasp from the room sucked the oxygen right out of the air. They did not see the track marks of an addict. They saw war. The scar was a brutal, jagged crater, concaved muscle, mangled tissue. A violent disruption to their pristine world of champagne flutes and stock portfolios. I planted my feet. I pulled air deep into my diaphragm. I used the exact tone I used to command sailors on a flight deck. Are they teaching basic neurology at whatever strip mall clinic you operate out of, Doctor? My voice sliced through the room. The man in the cheap suit flinched. He took an involuntary step back, his eyes glued to my shoulder. I locked my eyes on Karen. This is not alcohol withdrawal. This is a severed radial nerve. It was pulverized by a 7.62 millimeter sniper round. Karen's smug smile cracked. Panic flickered behind her heavy mascara. But her ego was too massive to retreat in front of her country club friends. She opened her mouth, her neck flushing red, preparing to double down. Preparing to accuse me of making up war stories to cover a vodka habit. She never got the words out. A massive man shoved his way past a stunned waiter holding a tray of appetizers. He wore a crisp navy dress uniform. It was Commander Van Cecile, and a guest of my father's business partners. He ignored the crowd. He ignored Karen entirely. His eyes were locked dead onto my mangled bicep. The color completely drained from his hardened, weathered face. He took 2 steps toward me, then right there in the middle of the polished dance floor, his legs gave out. His knees hit the hardwood with a heavy, sickening thud. He covered his mouth with 2 massive, calloused hands, a combat-hardened seal sobbing openly under the chandeliers. "That trajectory," he choked out. His voice broke, echoing off the walls. I read the after-action report. "You dragged my petty officer out of the kill zone. If you had not stepped in front of that round, my men would have come home in body bags." Karen's jaw unhinged. The entire room stopped breathing. The fake doctor looked like he wanted to sink through the floorboards. I looked down at my violently shaking hand. The tremor was relentless. The ice in my glass had settled on the table, but the sound of that rattling crystal still echoed inside my head. It was the exact same sound my hand had made 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago on Thanksgiving. The exact day my brother's wife decided my physical agony was a social inconvenience and my blood money was hers to spend. 3 weeks before the country club ambush. Thanksgiving Day. Driving south on Interstate 395 out of the Pentagon is a physical nightmare. Traffic is deadlocked. Brake lights bleed red across the wet asphalt. The heater in my 10-year-old sedan is broken, blowing stale, lukewarm air against my face. By mile marker 12, my radial nerve gives out completely. The pain is not a dull ache. It is a white-hot wire wrapping around the bone of my right arm. The muscle goes rigid. My right arm becomes a dead, burning anchor attached to my shoulder. I grip the steering wheel with my left hand. The peeling leather digs into my palm. My knuckles turn pure white. Every time I have to shift my foot from the brake to the gas pedal, the vibration shoots straight up my spine. Just keeping the vehicle inside the lane takes every ounce of my willpower. I pull into my parents' driveway in Northern Virginia. I park directly behind Karen's vehicle. It is a brand new oversized Lexus SUV. The dealer tags are still bolted to the rear bumper. The chrome trim gleams under the gray November sky. It takes up 2 spaces. It smells like fresh wax, expensive detailing, and unearned money. I cut the engine. I sit in the cold silence of my car for a full minute. I force my breathing to slow down. In, out. I lock my dead right arm hard against my ribs to stop the visible shaking. I push the heavy car door open and step out onto the concrete. I walk through the front door. The house smells of roasted turkey butter and synthetic vanilla air fresheners. I am still wearing my Navy working uniform. I just finished a 14-hour marathon shift doing threat assessments deep inside the Pentagon. My combat boots are heavy against the hardwood floor. Sweat dries cold against my collar. I feel the grit of exhaustion behind my eyes. Karen stands in the hallway waiting for me. She holds a crystal glass of sparkling cider. She wears a cream-colored cashmere sweater that probably costs more than my monthly car insurance. Heavy gold bangles clink against her wrist. She looks me up and down. Her upper lip curls into a sneer of pure, unfiltered disgust. "You wore that to Thanksgiving dinner," she asks. Her voice is loud, deliberately loud so the entire house can hear. I do not answer her. I look straight ahead and step past her. She follows me into the living room, her heels clicking aggressively on the floorboards. "I guess when you are single and live in a tiny apartment, you do not really have to care about appearances or a mortgage." She sighs dramatically, swirling the cider in her glass. "You have no idea how stressful homeownership is, Bella. The constant maintenance is draining us." I bite the inside of my cheek. I bite down until I taste the sharp, metallic tang of copper. 6 months ago, my younger brother called me in the middle of the night. He was crying. He said he found toxic black mold inside their drywall. He swore the contractor said the house was a health hazard. He begged me for help. I was stationed overseas in a combat zone. I wired him $20,000 of my hazard pay. Money earned in the dirt. Money earned dodging mortar fire and sleeping in Kevlar. I told him to fix the walls. I expected nothing back. I just wanted my brother to be safe. We sit down at the dining table. The porcelain plates are perfectly aligned. The linen tablecloth is a blinding pure white. "Pass the wine," Karen orders. She does not ask. She points a manicured finger at the heavy glass bottle of red wine sitting near my plate. My brain registers the command. I reach out with my right hand. I grip the neck of the bottle. I lift it 2 inches off the polished wood. Then the severed nerve misfires. There is no warning, just a violent, uncontrollable electrical spasm shooting from my elbow down to my wrist. My fingers jerk outward. The grip completely fails. The heavy bottle launches forward. It slams hard into a crystal water goblet. Crack. Glass shatters across the table. The dark red wine explodes. It soaks into the pure white linen. It spreads fast. The liquid pools and creeps toward the edges of the table. I blink and the dining room vanishes. The dark red stain looks exactly like the arterial blood I saw pumping out of Chief Marquez's leg and soaking into the Afghan sand. Dark, viscous, unstoppable. Karen shrieks. She jumps back from the table, scraping her heavy wooden chair against the floorboards. She acts as if I just threw battery acid at her face. "Look at you," she screams. Her face twists into a mask of theatrical horror. She points her finger directly at my face. "You are drunk. It is 3 PM, and you are shaking like a drunk." The dining room falls, dead silent. I look at my brother. Daniel is staring intensely at his plate of green beans. He does not blink. He does not speak. He does not say a single word in my defense. He watches his wife execute my character in front of our parents, and he chooses cowardice. My mother quietly stands up. She goes to the kitchen and brings back a stack of paper towels. She starts dabbing the red stain. My father clears his throat and stares out the window at the dead grass. I am sitting there wearing the uniform of the United States Navy. My right hand is trembling violently against my thigh, and my own blood family chooses to treat me like a street junkie just to avoid upsetting a tyrant. I do not apologize. I look past Karen's screaming face. I look straight into the open kitchen. The bright overhead lights catch the surface of the kitchen island. It is brand new. Imported dark-veined Italian granite. The edges are perfectly beveled. It shines like dark glass. Beside it sits a massive stainless steel commercial refrigerator. There was never any toxic black mold. My $20,000 did not replace rotten drywall. It did not keep my brother safe. It bought a luxury kitchen remodel. My blood money bought her vanity. The red wine drips off the edge of the table and hits the floorboards. Drop by drop. I do not wipe it up. I just stare at the cold hard stone of that granite countertop. The dark red wine drips off the edge of the dining room table. It splatters onto the hardwood floor. But I don't see wine anymore. The color pulls my mind straight back to the dirt in Helmand Province. The memory hits me like a physical blow. 120 degrees in the shade. The air tasting like diesel exhaust burning plastic and copper. The deafening, earth-shaking crack of an RPG slamming into the compound wall. Dirt and jagged shrapnel raining down hard on our Kevlar helmets. Through the thick, choking smoke, I saw Chief Petty Officer Marquez. He was down in the dirt. His left leg was shredded. Pure raw meat and splintered bone. He was trying to drag himself through the hot sand. He was a sitting duck in the kill zone. Training overrides fear. It always does. I broke cover. I sprinted across the open ground, grabbed the heavy nylon drag handle on the back of his tactical vest, and pulled hard. I got him moving. Then the sniper fired. I never heard the shot. You never hear the one that hits you. There was no cinematic slow motion. Just a blinding white-hot heat tearing through my right bicep. The 7.62 millimeter armor-piercing round pulverized the muscle and snapped my radial nerve like a dry twig. I hit the dirt hard. My brain screamed at my right hand to grab my rifle. The hand did not move. It lay there in the Afghan sand. A spray of crimson soaked into my uniform. Dead. My dominant hand was completely dead. I blink. The desert heat vanishes. The freezing air conditioning of the Virginia dining room hits my sweat-damp collar. Karen is standing across the table. Her arms are crossed tightly over her cashmere sweater. Her designer heel is tapping impatiently against the floorboards. "Are you going to clean up your mess?" she snaps. Her voice is high, annoyed, as if I'm a disobedient toddler who just spilled juice. I do not speak. I push my heavy wooden chair back. I walk into the kitchen. The silence behind me is thick, suffocating. I grab a roll of paper towels, but before I turn around, I stop. I let my functioning left hand rest flat against the surface of the kitchen island. Italian granite, cold, solid, sparkling under the expensive recessed lighting. $20,000. I trace the dark, intricate veins in the stone with my index finger. This is what my severed nerve bought. This is what my shattered arm paid for. This is my blood money. I grab the paper towels and walk back to the dining room. I throw them onto the spilled wine. I look directly at my brother. Daniel is still staring intensely at his plate. He refuses to lift his chin. He refuses to make eye contact with the sister who bankrolled his fake life. His silence is a physical thing. It is a rusted knife twisting slowly in my gut. Fast forward to 0500 hours. The next morning, Arlington, Virginia. The alarm clock buzzes in the pitch black of my apartment. Waking up is a battlefield. It has been every single day since I got medevaced out of theater. I sit up on the edge of the mattress. The hardwood floor is freezing against my bare feet. My right arm hangs off my shoulder like a wet, heavy log. It is a useless anchor of flesh and bone. I drag myself to the bathroom. Getting into the navy khaki uniform is an agonizing, humiliating process. Things civilians do without thinking take me 10 times longer. I manage the pants. I pull the stiff khaki shirt over my shoulders. I start working the buttons with my left hand. First button, second button. By the third button, the damaged nerve misfires. A violent neurological tremor rips through my bicep. My right hand starts shaking wildly. It smacks against my own chest. I drop the fabric. Sweat beads on my forehead. The cold air bites my skin. I stare at myself in the bathroom mirror. The harsh fluorescent light casts dark shadows under my eyes. Inside, I feel like a helpless child. I want to smash the mirror. I want to punch the wall until my knuckles bleed. But I do not. I close my eyes. I grit my teeth. "Push through," I whisper to the empty room. I force my left hand back to the button. Outside this door, I'm a commander. Outside this door, I must be made of iron. 1400 hours, deep inside the Pentagon. The secure briefing room smells of floor-waxed stale coffee and high-stakes tension. I am standing at the head of a massive polished oak table. I am delivering a global threat assessment briefing to a vice admiral and 6 senior staff officers. I hold the red laser pointer steady in my left hand, circling a satellite image on the projector screen. Beneath the table, out of sight, a war is raging. My right arm is experiencing a full-blown neurological tremor. The shaking is violent, relentless. If I let my hand go, it will rattle against the heavy wood and expose my broken body to every officer in the room. I do not let it go. I drop my right shoulder. I pin my elbow brutally against my ribs. I use pure, raw physical force to crush my own arm against my torso. I press hard enough to leave a deep, dark bruise on my ribs. It hurts. It burns like hell. I ignore it. My face remains a mask of cold, unbothered professionalism. I do not stutter. I do not break eye contact with the vice admiral. Survival in this building means hiding the weakness. You show them a crack in the armor, and they will bench you. I finish the briefing. I walk the long, sterile corridors back to my cramped cubicle. I sit down in my cheap office chair. I finally relax my shoulder and let my right arm drop. It shakes violently against my thigh. I'm exhausted, bone-tired. I reach for my steel thermos of black coffee with my good hand. Before my fingers touch the metal, my cell phone vibrates against the glass desk. The screen lights up. It is a text message from Karen. A massive block of text. I stare at the glowing screen in the quiet office. The survival mask I wear for the military is flawless. But my family knows exactly where my armor is broken. The enemy is changing tactics, and the real assault is just beginning. My cell phone vibrates against the glass top of my desk. A harsh, mechanical buzz. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound cuts through the low, endless hum of the Pentagon air conditioning. I reach out with my functioning left hand and pick up the device. The screen glares under the harsh fluorescent lights. It is a text message from Karen. Not just a simple message, a massive, unbroken block of text. I read the first line, the muscles in my jaw lock tight. Daniel and I are deeply concerned about your escalating alcoholism. I read the second line. My fingernails dig hard into the plastic edge of my phone case. Your behavior at Thanksgiving was erratic. Throwing wine across the table is dangerous. We found a discreet outpatient rehab clinic in Alexandria. Please check in tonight. Do not embarrass Mom and Dad anymore. I stare at the glowing letters. There is zero mention of the shattered crystal water goblet. Zero mention of her screaming at me in front of the entire family like I was a feral dog. And absolutely zero mention of the $20,000 I wired her husband 6 months ago. The combat hazard pay I bled for in the Afghan dirt. Just pure, unadulterated manipulation. I do not cry. I do not throw the phone against the cinder block wall of my cubicle. Crying is for civilians who still believe the world is fair. I am an explosive ordnance disposal officer. I dismantle threats for a living. I sit back in my cheap, squeaking office chair. I read the text block again. I stop looking at it like a message from my brother's wife. I start looking at it the exact same way I analyze the wiring of an improvised explosive device buried under a dirt road. I strip away the emotion. I look at the bare wires. Karen is terrified. She's not concerned about my liver. She is panicked because I looked past her screaming face in the dining room. She knows my eyes locked onto the brand new imported Italian granite countertops. She knows I saw the massive stainless steel refrigerator. She knows the gig is completely up. This text message is not a family intervention. It is a preemptive defense grid. By framing me as a mentally unstable raging drunk, she is building a concrete firewall around her lies. If I march into that house and demand my money back, she has already laid the groundwork. She will just shake her head, look at my parents with fake pity, and tell the family I am hallucinating from severe alcohol withdrawals. It is gaslighting. Masterful, calculated, predatory gaslighting. She took my genuine medical trauma, a severed radial nerve from a sniper round, and weaponized it into a character flaw just to protect her kitchen remodel. I look back at the screen. 3 little gray dots bubble at the bottom of the text thread. She is typing again. 10 seconds later, another message pops up. We are praying for your recovery, Bella. The sheer audacity tastes like battery acid in the back of my throat. She stole my blood money, bought luxury countertops with it, and now she's playing the righteous, long-suffering savior. My left thumb hovers over the digital keyboard. Every human instinct in my body demands I fire back. I want to type out the bank routing numbers. I want to threaten her with a lawsuit. I want to tell her exactly what I think of her fake, pathetic, debt-ridden country club existence. I pull my thumb back. I press the side button. The screen goes black. I set the phone face down on the cold glass desk. I deploy the most terrifying weapon in the military arsenal. Absolute, suffocating silence. I refuse to engage. I refuse to defend my sobriety to a thief. If you explain, you lose. If you argue with a liar, you validate their lie. I will not play her game. Let her stare at her screen. Let her check her notifications every 5 minutes. Let her pace around her expensive new kitchen and sweat in the quiet. She fired her first shot. My campaign has officially begun. 2 hours later, I leave the Pentagon. I drive my 10-year-old sedan across town through the heavy Virginia traffic. The sky overhead is a flat, dead gray. I pull into Walter Reed National Military Medical Center for my quarterly neurological evaluation. The air inside the hospital is heavy. It smells of industrial bleach, fresh floor wax, and quiet, grinding resilience. I walk down the long, sterile corridor. My combat boots squeak slightly on the polished linoleum floor. I pass a young Marine in a heavy steel wheelchair. Both of his legs end at the mid-thigh. I pass an Army Ranger leaning against the wall, learning how to balance with a carbon fiber prosthetic leg. Their faces are hardened by reality. They carry the visible, brutal receipts of war. And yet as I walk past them, my chest tightens. My right hand starts to spasm. The neurological tremor ripples down my forearm. The hand shakes violently against my thigh. It is entirely out of my control. Before I can stop myself, the toxic words from Karen's text echo inside my skull, shaking like a drunk. Embarrassing your parents. The gaslighting is working. The poison is in my veins. I look down at the floor tiles. I bend my right elbow. I shove my violently shaking hand deep into the pocket of my navy trousers. I hide it. Even here, surrounded by warriors who left actual pieces of themselves in the dirt, I feel the heavy, sickening shame my sister-in-law tried to inject into my blood. I keep my hand buried deep in my pocket, totally unaware that the man waiting for me at the end of the hall is about to tear that shame straight out of my chest. The cafeteria at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center does not smell like a country club. There is no roasted tenderloin, no expensive Chanel perfume, no crystal glasses. It smells of industrial bleach-burnt coffee and old linoleum. I'm sitting at a chipped formica table. Across from me sits Rear Admiral Avery Butcher. She's 60 years old, a Navy legend. She has eyes that can strip the paint off a steel bulkhead and scars she doesn't bother to hide. I need caffeine. I pull my right hand out of my uniform pocket. Big mistake. I reach for the paper cup of black coffee sitting between us. My fingers just graze the cheap cardboard. Suddenly, the severed radial nerve misfires. It happens in a fraction of a second. A violent, uncontrollable jerk. The cup tips over. Scalding black coffee sloshes over the rim. It hits my bare knuckles. It burns like hell. Panic floods my chest. Pure, conditioned panic. 3 weeks ago, this exact involuntary movement shattered a water goblet. It ruined a pure white linen tablecloth. It got me branded a pathetic shaking drunk by my own family. My muscles react on pure instinct. I yank my right hand off the table. I shove it hard underneath the formica, pinning my arm brutally against my thigh to kill the visible shaking. I brace myself. I look down at the dark puddle of coffee spreading across the table. I wait for the reprimand. I wait for the Admiral to look at me with the exact same disgust Karen had in her eyes. Admiral Butcher does not gasp. She does not flinch. She calmly picks up a paper napkin and tosses it onto the spilled coffee. Then she leans forward. She rests her forearms on the cheap table. Her eyes lock onto mine, cold, piercing. "Put your hand back on the table, Commander," she orders. I freeze. My jaw tightens. "Do not hide that hand from me," she says. Her voice is low, grinding steel. I swallow hard. I slowly bring my right hand up from under the table. It shakes violently against the formica. Butcher stares right at the tremor. She does not look away. "I heard about the Thanksgiving incident. Your family." The shame is a heavy physical weight in the back of my throat. I look at the floor. "Look at me, cook." Butcher snaps, her voice slicing through the ambient noise of the cafeteria. I snap my chin up. "You treat that tremor like a character defect, like a dirty secret, like an embarrassment." She points a calloused finger directly at my shaking hand. "It is not a defect. It is a receipt. You paid the physical price so your enlisted men could breathe today. You bought their lives with that nerve. Never hide the receipt of your courage to make a coward feel comfortable." The words hit me like a physical shockwave. They shatter the mental prison I have been trapped inside for 3 long years. I look down at my hand. The shaking does not stop. But the shame vanishes. I am not a drunk. I am a survivor. I nod once. I leave my hand resting on top of the table. 10 minutes later, we walk out into the main hospital corridor. My boots hit the floor in a steady, confident rhythm. "Commander Cook." A booming voice echoes off the ceramic tiles. I stop and turn. A massive man is moving rapidly down the hall toward me. He is using 2 heavy forearm crutches. His left leg ends cleanly at the knee. Below that is a black carbon fiber prosthetic pole bolted to a heavy rubber foot. It is Chief Petty Officer Marquez. The man I dragged out of the kill zone in the Afghan dirt. He doesn't stop to salute. He drops his right crutch. It hits the floor with a loud, sharp crack. He lunges forward, balancing entirely on his good leg, and wraps his massive arms around my shoulders. It is a crushing, desperate embrace. It smells of cheap Old Spice cologne, stale sweat, and raw, overwhelming gratitude. He holds on tight. He buries his face in the shoulder of my uniform. You came back, he whispers, his voice thick and breaking. You actually came back for me. He pulls away, swiping a thick hand across his eyes. He looks behind him. Standing a few feet away is a little boy, 7 years old, wearing faded jeans and a Captain America t-shirt. Marquez leans heavily on his remaining crutch. He points a thick finger at me. Leo, come here. This is the officer. This is the woman who made sure I came home to you. The boy steps forward. He looks up at me with wide, dark eyes. He doesn't look at the gold oak leaves on my collar. He doesn't look at my medals. He looks right at my mangled, shaking right arm. I tense up. Kids are brutally honest. I expect him to step back. I expect him to be scared of the jagged scar and the violent tremor. He isn't. Leo reaches out with both of his small hands. He wraps his warm fingers entirely around my shaking right hand. He holds on. He anchors the tremor with his tiny grip. He doesn't let go. Thank you for saving my dad, Leo whispers. My throat closes up. The country club elites called me a disgrace. My own brother stared at his shoes while his wife publicly executed my character. But here in a hallway smelling of floor wax and bleach, a 7-year-old boy holds my broken hand like it is the most valuable thing in the world. Blood does not make you family. Loyalty does. I push through the heavy double doors of the hospital. The Virginia sun is blinding, the air is freezing, but my chest feels like a furnace. I walk across the asphalt parking lot. For the first time in 3 years, I do not shove my right hand into my pocket. I let it shake in the open air. I let the world see the receipt. I reach my car. I grab the door handle. Then my phone rings. Not a text message, a live call. The harsh buzz cuts through the cold air. I pull the phone out with my left hand. The caller ID flashes brightly on the screen. Daniel, my brother, the coward. The man who has not spoken a single word to me since Thanksgiving. The man whose wife just tried to gaslight me into a rehab clinic to cover up their financial theft. I stare at his name. The peace of the hospital vanishes. The war is back on. I hit the green button, put the phone to my ear, and wait for him to dig his own grave. The call comes in exactly 2 weeks after Karen's gaslighting text message. I am standing in the asphalt parking lot of the Walter Reed Medical Center. The Virginia wind cuts through my uniform coat. The caller ID flashes my brother's name. I let it ring 3 times. My thumb hovers over the red decline button, but I hit green. Bella. Daniel's voice is thin, shaky. He sounds like a guy begging a loan shark for an extension. What do you want, Daniel? Dad's 70th birthday dinner is this Saturday, he says. He breathes heavily into the receiver. It is at the Oak Creek Country Club. He really wants you there. We all do. I stare out at the cold gray pavement. I am not sitting at a table with your wife. Not after Thanksgiving. Not after she accused me of being a drunk to cover up the money you two stole. She dropped it, he says quickly. Too quickly. I swear to God, Bella, I talked to her. She dropped the whole rehab nonsense. She just wants peace. For Dad. Please, just come for dinner. No drama. Every tactical instinct in my body screams at me to hang up. An ambush always needs bait. The enemy uses what you love to pull you into the kill zone. My brother is reading a script. I can hear the manufactured desperation in his throat. But then I remember the little kid who used to hide behind my legs when thunderstorms shook our childhood house. I remember the brother I wired $20,000 to from a combat zone because I thought he was in danger. Against every protocol I ever learned in officer training, the older sister in me overrides the military commander. 2 hours, I tell him. And if she starts anything, I walk. I hang up. I just willingly walked onto a minefield. Saturday evening, I stand in the bathroom of my Arlington apartment. The mirror reflects a 38-year-old woman with exhausted eyes. I open my closet. My fingers brush past the row of long-sleeved silk blouses. The modest, heavy clothes I usually wear to family functions. The armor I use to hide the physical damage from my parents' soft suburban eyes. Not tonight. I I reach into the back and pull out a sleeveless navy blue cocktail dress. I slip it on. I stand square to the glass and stare directly at my right arm. The 7.62mm armor-piercing sniper round did not just leave a clean scar. It took a massive chunk out of my humanity. The skin is a brutal, jagged crater. The bicep is concaved and violently twisted where the muscle and radial nerve were pulverized into red mist. It is ugly. It is harsh. It is real. Normally, I would grab the cream-colored pashmina shawl sitting at the foot of my bed. I would drape it over my shoulders to spare the country club guests the discomfort of looking at a mangled war veteran while they eat their imported shrimp cocktail. I look at the folded silk shawl. Then I look at my arm. Admiral Butcher's voice grinds like heavy machinery in the back of my head. Never hide the receipt. I turn off the bedroom light. I leave the shawl on the bed. The Oak Creek Country Club smells like old money, fresh floor wax, and supreme arrogance. I walk through the heavy oak double doors. Crystal chandeliers throw warm, expensive light across the ballroom. A four-piece jazz band plays a low, smooth tune in the corner. Waiters in crisp white coats glide across the hardwood floor, carrying silver trays of champagne and caviar. I keep my posture dead straight. I let my bare, scarred right arm hang at my side. I catch a few wealthy guests staring at the crater in my skin. The moment I make eye contact, they quickly look away, sipping their drinks nervously. My parents spot me. They rush over. My dad smiles wide, clapping my good shoulder. My mom actually looks relieved, kissing my cheek. Then Daniel walks up. He smells like top-shelf scotch and heavy anxiety. He doesn't look me in the eye, but he steps forward and wraps his arms around me for a quick, tight hug. "Thanks for coming," he mutters into my ear. For 30 minutes, the illusion holds. It feels like a normal family gathering. The tension leaves my shoulders. I stand near a high-top table, holding a glass of sparkling water with ice in my right hand. I ignore the slight rhythmic tremors shooting down my wrist. The ice clinks softly against the crystal. I let my guard down. I actually believe my brother found a spine. Then the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up. I scan the crowded room. I find the threat. Karen is standing on the far side of the mahogany bar. She is not talking to anyone. She is not holding a drink. She holds a leather clutch purse tightly to her chest. Beside her stands a sleazy-looking man wearing a cheap, ill-fitting gray suit. Karen is staring directly at me. Her eyes are completely dead, cold and calculated. It is the exact look of a sniper settling into a hide, waiting for the target to step into the crosshairs. The jazz band suddenly cuts out. The music stops mid-note. The silence hits the room like a physical shockwave. 50 wealthy guests stop talking. Laughter dies in their throats. Heads turn. Karen steps into the dead center of the polished dance floor. She holds a heavy silver spoon in her right hand. She taps it sharply against a crystal wine glass. Clink, clink, clink. The sharp metallic sound is deafening. My stomach plummets into a black hole. The trap is not just set. It is springing shut right around my neck. Karen smiles. It is a terrifying, predatory smile. She gestures toward me with her empty hand. The man in the gray suit steps out from the shadows of the bar, moving right to her side. I look at Daniel. He looks down at his expensive shoes. He shrinks back into the crowd, melting away from me. He knew. He lured me here. He served his sister on a silver platter to save himself. Karen takes a deep breath. She puffs her chest out, feeding on the complete attention of the elite crowd. She points her manicured fingers straight at my shaking right hand, the hand holding the ice water. She opens her mouth and she screams the words that shatter my world. Look at her hand. She's a shaking, pathetic drunk and a disgrace to this family. The heavy thud of Commander Vance's knees hitting the hardwood floor echoes through the ballroom. Then absolute dead silence. The jazz band is frozen. 50 wealthy country club guests stop breathing. Commander Vance, a combat-hardened Navy SEAL, is openly weeping on the polished dance floor. His massive shoulders shake. He stares at the jagged crater on my exposed right arm, reliving the exact moment in the Afghan dirt when that sniper round bought his men their lives. The man in the cheap gray suit, the fake addiction specialist Karen brought to publicly execute me, takes a slow step backward, then another, He looks at my shredded silk sleeve. He looks at the weeping seal. He realizes he just walked into a defamation trap against a decorated military officer. He turns around and slips out the side door. I do not look at the doctor. I look at Karen. All the blood drains from her face. Her smug country club smile is gone. Her skin is chalky. The heavy, expensive string of pearls around her neck suddenly looks like a chain dragging her to the bottom of the ocean. I step around Commander Vance. I move slowly, deliberately. My eyes lock onto Karen with the lethal precision of a drone strike. I do not raise my voice. Screaming is for people who have lost control. I drop my voice an entire octave. I speak with a terrifying icy calm that carries all the way to the back of the silent room. You brought a doctor here to fix me, Karen. I take another step forward. She shrinks back against the mahogany bar. I get close enough to smell the sour stench of panicked sweat breaking through her expensive Chanel perfume. Let us talk about what really needs fixing, I say softly. Let us talk about the rot inside your house. I turn my back to her. I face the crowd of elites. My right hand is still experiencing a violent neurological tremor, but my voice slices through the stale air like a razor blade. 6 months ago, my younger brother called me crying in the middle of the night, I announce. He told me his house was infested with toxic black mold. He said it was a health hazard. I was stationed overseas in a combat zone. I wired him $20,000 of my combat hazard pay. My blood money. The crowd gasps. I whip my head back to Karen. I point my shaking, mangled right hand directly at her face. And what did you do? My voice cracks like a whip. You did not fix any mold. You bought imported Italian granite countertops. You bought the oversized Lexus SUV parked outside. You bought the pearls sitting on your neck right now. You stole my blood money to fund your luxury lifestyle. Karen opens her mouth. Her jaw works up and down, but no sound comes out. And when you realized I saw the new kitchen, I continue stepping right into her personal space. You panicked. You tried to label me a shaking drunk in front of this entire room. You weaponized my permanent nerve damage so no one would believe me when I demanded my money back. The silence in the room is suffocating. You can hear the ice melting in the crystal glasses. My father steps forward from the crowd. His face is pale. The skin around his mouth is tight. He looks sick to his stomach. He bypasses me entirely and walks straight up to my brother. Daniel, my dad whispers. His voice shakes. Is this true? Did you take your sister's hazard pay for a kitchen remodel? I look at my brother. This is it. The final test. The moment he can finally stand up, be a man, and take responsibility. Daniel looks at my dad. Then he looks at me. He opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. He drops his chin. He looks down at his expensive leather shoes. He refuses to meet my gaze. His cowardly silence is the final, undeniable guilty verdict. I feel a strange cold snap inside my chest. The last frayed thread of sibling loyalty breaks. It does not hurt anymore. It just feels empty. I reach down and grab my purse off the table. If you've ever had your own flesh and blood stab you in the back over money, hit that like button and share your story in the comments. We don't heal by hiding our scars. We heal by exposing the people who caused them. I do not wait for an apology. I do not want one. I look at my parents. I look at the brother who sold me out. I am a commander in the United States Navy. I state clearly, my voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. I have value. I do not need your pity. And I no longer need this family. I turn my back on them. I do not look over my shoulder. I walk toward the exit. The crowd of 50 wealthy guests splits down the middle. They part for me like the Red Sea, pulling their expensive coats and dresses out of my way. They stare at the jagged crater on my arm, but there is no judgment left in their eyes, only raw shock. I push through the heavy oak double doors. The freezing Virginia night air hits my face. It bites at my exposed skin. It smells like pine needles and cold asphalt. It is sharp and clean. My right hand is still shaking violently at my side. The nerve damage is permanent. The physical war will never end. But as I walk across the dark parking lot toward my car, I take a deep, pulling breath. My chest feels as light as air. I am finally free. The morning after the country club ambush, I wake up in my Arlington apartment. The physical toll of adrenaline is heavy. My right arm aches with a dull burning throb. I roll over and look at my nightstand. My cell phone is a glowing, vibrating battlefield. 47 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, a constant stream of text messages lighting up the glass screen. I reach over with my good hand and unlock it. I ignore the desperate texts from Daniel. I open the thread from my mother. Please come home, Bella. You are tearing this family apart. You need to be the bigger person. Family forgives. I stare at the cracked plaster on my bedroom ceiling. The harsh morning light bleeds through the blinds. Be the bigger person. It is the universal battle cry of the enabler. In this family, being the bigger person just means lying flat on the dirt so the toxic ones do not have to step over you. It means swallowing your own blood so you don't ruin their appetite. I swipe left. I hit delete. I drop the phone back onto the nightstand. I am completely done absorbing their shrapnel. I push myself out of bed. The floorboards are freezing. I walk to the kitchen, pour a mug of black coffee, and carry it to my small desk. I open my heavy military-issued Panasonic Toughbook. I do not write a heartfelt letter. I do not ask for understanding. I draft a directive. I use the standard military communication format, BLUF. Bottom line up front. I hit the keyboard hard with my left hand. The mechanical clicking echoes off the bare walls of my apartment. Subject: rules of engagement. Condition 1. Karen will handwrite a formal apology to all 50 guests present at the Oak Creek Country Club. She will explicitly state she lied about my sobriety to cover up a financial theft. I want a copy of every letter. Condition 2. Daniel has exactly 30 days to present a legally binding repayment plan for the $20,000 hazard pay. On day 31, my attorney files a civil suit for fraud and theft by deception. Your assets will be subpoenaed. There will be no phone calls. There will be no negotiations. Do not contact me again until these conditions are met. I move the cursor. I hit send. The screen flashes white. The digital bomb is away. 3 days pass. The silence from Northern Virginia is absolute. It is heavy, but it is clean. On Thursday afternoon, a sharp knock hits my front door. I open it. A delivery driver in a faded brown jacket is standing on my welcome mat. He holds a massive, heavy glass vase. It is stuffed with at least $200 worth of premium blue hydrangeas. Delivery for Cook, he mutters, shoving the heavy vase into my arms. The smell hits me instantly. It is sickeningly sweet, suffocating. I carry the vase into the kitchen and set it on the counter. I pull the small white envelope from the plastic fork stuck in the soil. I rip it open with my teeth. It is Karen's handwriting, frantic sharp loops. I am sorry if you felt attacked. Emotions were high on Saturday. We all said things we didn't mean. Let's move past this. I read the card twice. A bitter laugh scrapes the back of my throat. It is a textbook classic narcissist non-apology. She's not sorry she stole my blood money. She's not sorry she tried to publicly execute me in front of 50 people. She's just sorry I fought back. She's sorry her mask slipped. I do not put the card down. I crush it in my fist. I pick the heavy glass vase back up. I walk straight out my front door. I march down the concrete breezeway of my apartment complex, the cold wind whipping against my face. I reach the heavy rusted metal dumpster at the end of the lot. I kick the side door open with my combat boot. I do not hesitate. I toss the entire $200 arrangement inside. Crash. The thick glass shatters over black garbage bags and rotten food. The sickeningly sweet smell of the flowers mixes with the stench of the trash. I let the metal door slam shut. That evening, the sun dips below the Virginia tree line. My phone rings. It is not Daniel. It is not my mother. It is my dad, the patriarch, the man who spent 30 years ducking his head and avoiding conflict at all costs. I sit on my couch. I answer the call. I do not say hello. I just put the phone to my ear and wait. I hear heavy, ragged breathing, then a thick, wet sob. My father is weeping, openly, violently crying into the receiver. I saw your arm, Bella. He chokes out. The words sound like they are tearing his throat apart. When you pulled up your sleeve, Jesus Christ. He pauses, trying to catch his breath. The line crackles with static. While you were out there, he whispers, his voice breaking completely. While you were getting torn apart by sniper bullets in the sand, I was calling you to complain about my golf swing. I was complaining about my lawn. I am so sorry, kid. I am so sorry I didn't protect you. I sit in the dark apartment. I listen to him cry. I do not offer empty comfort. I do not tell him it is okay. It is not okay. He needs to feel the full weight of this reality. I cut him off, Bella. My dad finally says, his voice hardening into something cold. Daniel came to the house this morning. He asked for a loan to cover the lawyer you threatened him with. I told him to get the hell out of my house. I cut his credit lines. They do not get another dime from me until your blood money is returned. I close my eyes. The supply lines are officially severed. The enemy is isolated, broke, and starving. Thank you, Dad, I say quietly. I will see you on Friday. Friday is my promotion ceremony at Naval Station Norfolk. It is a highly publicized military event. My parents will be in the VIP row. To maintain their fake country club optics, Daniel and Karen have no choice but to show up and pretend everything is fine. They are walking directly into my territory, and Admiral Butcher is waiting for them. Naval Station Norfolk. Friday morning. The air inside the massive aircraft hangar is cold and heavy. It smells like raw ocean salt, hot asphalt, and the sharp chemical burn of jet fuel. The massive steel doors are rolled wide open. Beyond them sits the gray hull of an aircraft carrier. Inside, 300 folding chairs are perfectly aligned on the concrete floor. 300 men and women wearing crisp, blinding white Navy dress uniforms sit in absolute silence. It is my promotion ceremony. The day I officially put on the silver eagles of a Navy captain. I stand off to the side of the wooden podium. I keep my boots shoulder-width apart. I keep my spine locked straight. I look at the front row, the VIP section. My father sits in the center seat. He wears a dark suit. He sits tall, looking up at the podium with fierce, unapologetic pride. Beside him sits Daniel. My brother looks exhausted. The skin under his eyes is dark and bruised from lack of sleep. He owes me 20 grand. His credit lines are cut. His fake suburban empire is crumbling. And right next to Daniel sits Karen. She had to come. Skipping a military promotion ceremony after the country club disaster would have completely destroyed her social standing in the family. She sits rigidly in her seat. She wears a pale pink Chanel suit. She probably spent 3 hours getting ready, desperately trying to look like she belongs here. She doesn't. She looks terrified. She is completely surrounded by a sea of white uniforms. No crystal chandeliers, no jazz band, no sleazy doctors in cheap suits. There is no gaslighting in this room. The people in this hangar do not care about granite countertops or imported cars. They care about blood, honor, and who is willing to die for the person standing next to them. Karen clutches her expensive leather purse tightly in her lap. She realizes the brutal truth. She has zero power here. She is a parasite sitting in a room full of apex predators. Rear Admiral Avery Butcher steps up to the wooden podium. The hangar goes dead quiet. Admiral Butcher adjusts the microphone. She looks out over the crowd, then she slowly drops her gaze. She bypasses the 300 sailors. She bypasses my father. Her eyes lock directly onto Karen in the front row. Butcher's face hardens into stone. She looks down at the prepared speech sitting on the podium. She reaches out, grabs the pages, and slowly folds them in half. She slides them away. She breaks script. We are here today to pin the rank of captain on an officer who understands the true cost of command. Butcher says. Her voice booms through the hangar speakers. It bounces off the heavy steel beams. She keeps her eyes deadlocked on Karen. 3 years ago in Helmand Province, a routine patrol turned into a slaughterhouse. An improvised explosive device detonated. A chief petty officer went down in the open dirt. His leg was shredded. He was bleeding out in the kill zone. I look at Daniel. He stops breathing. He stares at the concrete floor. Under heavy enemy sniper fire, Commander Cook broke cover. Butcher continues. Her voice is a low rhythmic drumbeat. She sprinted 50 yards across open sand. She grabbed that chief by his tactical vest. She dragged a grown man wearing 80 pounds of gear out of the line of fire. And she did it while taking a 7.62 millimeter armor-piercing round directly through her right bicep. The silence in the hangar is absolute. It is heavy enough to crush bone. That sniper round, Butcher says, stepping out from behind the podium, shattered her radial nerve. It left her with permanent agonizing nerve damage. It left her with a violent physical tremor. Karen shrinks down in her seat. Her face burns crimson. She looks desperately at Daniel, but my brother refuses to look at her. He just stares straight ahead, his eyes glassy. Admiral Butcher's voice suddenly rises. It echoes like cannon fire. "I have heard whispers," she thunders, glaring straight down at Karen. "I have heard whispers in civilian circles that Captain Cook's shaking hand is a sign of weakness, that it is something broken, something to be ashamed of." Karen swallows hard. Her pink Chanel suit suddenly looks like a straitjacket. "Let me be absolutely clear." Butcher grinds out her words, slicing through the air. "That shaking is not weakness. It is not a flaw. That shaking is the undeniable physical evidence of absolute bravery. It is the receipt she paid so another American son could come home." The hangar erupts. It does not start with polite clapping. It starts with a roar. A massive man steps out from the shadows near the wing of a parked fighter jet. It is Chief Petty Officer Marquez. He leans heavily on a single black crutch. His dress-white uniform is immaculate. The purple ribbon of his Purple Heart medal gleams on his chest. In the second row of the audience, Commander Vance stands up. The Navy SEAL, who cried on the floor of the country club, snaps to attention. Then 300 officers and enlisted sailors rise to their feet. The sound hits me like a physical wave. It is a deafening, thunderous roar of applause. 300 pairs of heavy boots stomping the concrete. 300 warriors clapping until their hands burn. I look at the front row. My father is standing, tears streaming freely down his face. Daniel is on his feet. He's clapping hard. His face is pale and his hands are red. He looks directly at me through the sea of uniforms. He mouths 2 words. "I'm sorry." Karen remains seated for exactly 3 seconds. She looks around in pure, unfiltered panic. The sheer pressure of the room forces her up. She stands awkwardly, clapping her hands together, looking completely broken and utterly humiliated. Her fake empire just burned to the ground. Admiral Butcher steps forward. She holds 2 silver eagle insignias. I step up to the center of the floor. She pins the heavy silver medal to my collar. She takes a step back and comes to attention. "Attention on deck," a Master Chief barks. The applause stops instantly. 300 sailors snap their heels together. The sharp crack of leather on concrete echoes one final time. I look out at the crowd. I do not hide my right arm. I do not pin it against my ribs. I raise my mangled right hand. I bring my fingers up to the brim of my white cover. I execute a perfect military salute. My hand shakes violently against my brow. The tremor is relentless. It is ugly. It is raw. But I hold it there, and 300 men and women in the United States Navy raise their hands and salute my shaking arm right back. 8 months. That is exactly how long it takes to break a narcissist when you completely cut off their supply lines. The first of every month, a notification pops up on my phone screen. An automatic direct deposit from Daniel's bank account. $1,200. Clockwork. No excuses, no missed payments. My brother finally figured out that my lawyer was not bluffing. I am sitting at my kitchen island running a threat assessment report on my military laptop. An email drops into my personal inbox. The sender name is Karen. I don't open it immediately. I finish my coffee. I wash the mug. I wipe down the counter. I let her wait. Only then do I click the subject line. It is a long, raw confession. The country club facade is gone. She writes that Daniel moved his clothes into the downstairs guest room 3 months ago. He told her he was filing for divorce if she didn't fix the damage she caused. Stripped of her enablers, isolated from my father's bank account, and facing the collapse of her marriage, her ego finally cracked. She admits everything. She admits stealing the hazard pay for the countertops. She admits bringing the fake doctor to the party. And right at the bottom, she types the ugliest truth of all. I wanted to destroy you because I was jealous. You had a purpose. You had medals and respect. I had a massive house and absolutely nothing inside it. I am so sorry. Please give me 10 minutes of your time. I stare at the glowing screen. I do not feel vindicated. I just feel tired. I agree to meet her at a local diner in Alexandria, neutral ground. I walk through the glass door. The place smells like burnt coffee beans, old bacon grease, and wet asphalt. I spot Karen in a corner booth. The designer armor is completely gone. No Chanel suit, no heavy pearl necklace, no perfect blowout. She wears a plain gray wool sweater. Her hair is pulled back into a messy clip. The skin under her eyes is puffy and red. She looks exhausted. She looks like a civilian who just survived her first mortar attack. I slide into the vinyl booth across from her. I place my hands on the table, both of them. My right hand shakes lightly against the scratched laminate. I do not hide it. She looks at my hand and her eyes instantly fill with tears. Real tears. Not the theatrical gaslighting tears she used at Thanksgiving. These are the ugly, heavy tears of total defeat. I am so sorry, Bella. She whispers, her voice cracking. She grabs a cheap paper napkin and presses it against her eyes. I took your money. I lied to your parents. I tried to humiliate you. It was evil. I was evil. I signal the waitress. I order a black coffee. I wait for the mug to arrive before I speak. I take a slow sip. The coffee is bitter and scalding. I set the heavy ceramic mug down. I look at her. I do not feel anger anymore. The cold, icy rage that carried me through the last 8 months is gone. I just see a broken, insecure woman. I accept your apology, Karen, I say. My voice is flat, level. Relief washes over her face. She drops her shoulders, exhaling a massive, shaky breath. She reaches her hand across the table, trying to grab my left hand. I pull my hand back sharply. I raise my palm. Stop. Her smile falters. The relief drains away. Do not misunderstand me. I tell her, my voice dropping into a hard, unforgiving command tone. I am accepting your apology because I refuse to carry the weight of hating you anymore. This dead arm is heavy enough. I am not dragging your garbage around with me too. She swallows hard, staring at me. Trust is a mirror, Karen, I say, leaning forward. You didn't just scratch it. You took a steel hammer and smashed it into powder. I will come to the house for Thanksgiving. I will be a decent aunt to whatever kids you and Daniel have. I will be polite, but the cracks are permanent. She starts weeping quietly, her hands trembling in her lap. We are family, I state, looking dead into her eyes. But we will never, ever be friends. Do you accept this boundary? She doesn't argue. She doesn't try to manipulate the narrative. She just gives a slow, defeated nod. I slide a $5 bill onto the table to cover the coffee. I stand up, turn my back on her, and walk out the door. Present day. I am sitting in the driver's seat of my fully restored 1967 Mustang convertible. It is parked on the asphalt edge of the naval base. The top is down. The air smells like ocean salt and exhaust. I look down at my right hand resting on the wooden steering wheel. The crater from the sniper round is deep. The concave tissue stretches tight over the bone. The severed nerve continues to misfire. The hand shakes softly, a permanent rhythmic tremor. It is ugly. It is broken. But it is mine. It is the receipt for the lives of my men. You cannot build a solid, honest life on the foundation of disrespect. You either enforce your boundaries or you let people walk all over your grave. I reach forward with my left hand and turn the ignition key. The massive 289 cubic inch V8 engine kicks over. A heavy, aggressive mechanical rumble shakes the entire steel chassis. The vibration travels straight up the steering column. It meets the violent shaking of my right hand, blending perfectly into the power of the machine. I smile. I pull the gear shift down. I stomp my heavy combat boot on the gas pedal. The rear tires spin on the asphalt, and I let the V8 roar as I drive straight out into the fiery, blinding Virginia sunset. Sometimes walking away from toxic blood is the bravest mission you'll ever take. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments how you cut off the leeches in your life. Keep your boundaries made of steel and never apologize for your scars.